Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Potentially explosive news surfaced yesterday of unsubstantiated reports which have already been presented to President-elect Donald Trump, President Obama, and the nation's top lawmakers, and have now been published online by BuzzFeed that claim Russia has compromising information on Trump and that Trump's team knew about alleged Russian hacking and leaking of Democratic Party emails during the 2016 presidential campaign. The allegations were summarized in a two-page appendix to a report on Russian interference in the election, which Trump was briefed on last week. The summary is based on memos compiled by a former British intelligence operative. The information in the memos, which has not been independently verified by the FBI nor any major media outlets, includes claims that Trump representatives met multiple times with Russian officials during the 2016 campaign and discussed the hacking of the DNC and the email of Hillary Clinton campaign co-chair John Podesta. The memos also allege Russia has a sex tape of Trump from 2013 involving sex workers. CNN is reporting some of these allegations were reported to top lawmakers during classified briefings last fall. In October, then Senate Democratic leader Harry Reid sent a letter to FBI Director Comey, writing, quote, "It has become clear that you possess explosive information about close ties and coordination between Donald Trump, his top advisors, and the Russian government, a foreign interest openly hostile to the United States," unquote. The Guardian is reporting the FBI applied for a warrant over the summer from the secret FISA court in order to monitor top Trump campaign members who the FBI suspected of being in communication with Russian officials. The Guardian reports the FISA court rejected the FBI's initial application. Mother Jones was the first outlet to report some of these allegations in an article the week before the election. In response to the publication of the unsubstantiated memos, journalist Glenn Greenwald expressed skepticism, tweeting, quote, "An anonymous person claiming to be an ex-British intel agent and working as a Dem-Oppo researcher said anonymous people told him things," unquote. Following the news reports Tuesday, comedian Seth Meyers questioned Trump advisor Kellyanne Conway about the reports. Conway was recently named by Trump to the position of counselor to the president. This clip begins with Conway.
We should be concerned that intelligence officials leak to the press and won't go and tell the president-elect or the president of the United States himself now, Mr. Obama, what the information is. They would rather go tell the press.
But the report was the press report was about them going to the president.
And it says that they never briefed him on it, that they appended two pages to the bottom of his intelligence report.
I believe it said they did brief him on it.
Well, he has said that he is not aware of that.
Okay. That concerns me.
No.
I'm concerned.
No,
but in general, I just want to... I understand. No, I understand that...
and it's not true.
What is not true? That I'm concerned?
No, that I see.
Okay, I assure you I am.
Following the news reports, Trump tweeted, quote, "Fake news, a total political witch hunt," unquote. Donald Trump is slated to give his first news conference in nearly 6 months today. Trump's last news conference was July 27th when he called on Russia to hack Hillary Clinton's email servers. President-elect Donald Trump's nominee for U.S. Attorney General, Republican Senator Jeff Sessions of Alabama, faced more than 9 hours of testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee, during which he denied being a racist and tried to distance himself from Trump's most extreme positions. The hearing was repeatedly disrupted by protesters who chanted, "No Trump, no KKK, no fascist USA." During one interruption, protesters wore white hooded robes and pretended to be members of the Ku Klux Klan.
Jefferson, thank you so much for being here for the people. What do we have to do? Wait a minute, you can't arrest me, I'm white. White people don't get arrested. Wait a minute. White people, what do we have to do? Wait for the inauguration? What is this craziness? I'm a white man. You cannot take me out of here. I'm opening government. White people own this government. Why are you hurting me?
During During his 2 decades on Capitol Hill, Senator Sessions has opposed legislation that provides a path to citizenship for immigrants, questioned if the Constitution guarantees citizenship to anyone born in the United States, criticized the courts for interpreting the separation of church and state too broadly, and has declared same-sex marriage a threat to American culture. He also voted against reauthorizing the Violence Against Women Act, opposed the Voting Rights Act, and has a history of making racist comments, which included reportedly saying he thought the KKK was, quote, okay until I found out they smoked pot, unquote. In 1986, Coretta Scott King wrote a letter opposing Sessions for a federal judgeship, writing, quote, "The irony of Mr. Sessions' nomination is that if confirmed, he will be given a life tenure for doing with a federal prosecution what the local sheriffs accomplished 20 years ago with clubs and cattle prods. I believe his confirmation would have a devastating effect on not only the judicial system in Alabama, but also on the progress we have made toward fulfilling my husband's dream," unquote. Sessions was not confirmed for the federal judgeship in 1986 over concerns about his history of racist comments. We'll have more on Senator Sessions' confirmation hearing after headlines. Confirmation hearings continue on Capitol Hill today with day 2 of questioning for Sessions, along with a hearing for Trump's transportation secretary pick, Elaine Chao, and another for his choice of Secretary of State, longtime CEO of ExxonMobil, Rex Tillerson, who stepped down from his position in December. Tillerson could face questions about his ties to Russian President Vladimir Putin and his position on Trump's vow to cancel the Paris Climate Accord. Opponents also want Tillerson to respond to allegations that under his leadership, ExxonMobil had a policy of promoting human rights but continued to work in close partnership with repressive regimes. A handful of the confirmation hearings scheduled for this week have been delayed after concerns the nominees had not been vetted by the Office of Government Ethics. As of Monday afternoon, the ethics disclosure reports for 4 Trump nominees slated to go before the Senate this week had not been made public at all. The hearings have now been delayed for Betsy DeVos, Trump's education secretary nominee, Kansas Congressman Mike Pompeo for CIA director, billionaire Wilbur Ross for Commerce secretary, and Andrew Puzder for Labor secretary. Workers at Carl's Jr. and Hardee's, the 2 fast food chains run by Trump's Labor Secretary pick, Andrew Puzder, spoke about widespread wage theft and abuse at his restaurants on Tuesday during a forum hosted by Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren and Washington Senator Patty Murray. A survey by Restaurant Opportunities Center United has found a shocking 2/3 of women working at Puzder's restaurants experience sexual harassment at work. 1/3 of Puzder workers said they've had some of their wages stolen or not received required breaks. The report also called into question the food safety standards at Puzder's restaurants, with nearly 80% of Puzder workers saying they'd prepared or served food while they were sick. President Obama gave his farewell presidential address at Chicago's McCormick Place Convention Center Tuesday night. In the sweeping and at times emotional speech, President Obama spoke about everything from the Affordable Care Act to his love for his wife, First Lady Michelle Obama. He also offered veiled critiques of President-elect Donald Trump's anti-immigrant and xenophobic campaign proposals and invoked what he called the country's call to citizenship.
For 240 years, our nation's call to citizenship has given work and purpose to each new generation. It's what led patriots to choose republic over tyranny, pioneers to trek west, slaves to brave that makeshift railroad to freedom. It's what pulled immigrants and refugees across oceans and the Rio Grande. It's what pushed women to reach for the ballot. It's what powered workers to organize. It's why GIs gave their lives at Omaha Beach and Iwo Jima, Iraq, and Afghanistan. And why men and women from Selma to Stonewall were prepared to give theirs as well.
During President Obama's speech Tuesday night, he, the first United States black president, also spoke about racism.
After my election, there was talk of a post-racial America. And such a vision, however well intended, was never realistic. Race remains a potent and often divisive force in our society.
We'll have more on President Obama's farewell speech later in the broadcast with Reverend William Barber and Congressman Luis Gutierrez. In South Carolina, white supremacist and convicted murderer Dylann Roof has received the death penalty for murdering 9 black worshipers, including Pastor Clementa Pinckney, at the historic Emmanuel AME Church in June of 2015. During the trial, prosecutors quoted excerpts of a racist manifesto written by Roof while he was held in a Charleston jail. Roof wrote, quote, "I would like to make it crystal clear I do not regret what I did. I am not sorry. I have not shed a tear for the innocent people I killed," unquote. On Monday, after about 3 hours of deliberations, the jury returned with the unanimous decision that Roof should be put to death. Reverend Sharon Reicher, the daughter of one of Roof's victims, Ethel Lee Lance, said, quote, "I don't believe in the death penalty, but I'm my mother's child, and with everything that's happened, sometimes I want him to die. It's like, you know what, this fool continues to just be evil," unquote. We'll have more on Dylann Roof's death sentence later in the broadcast with Reverend Barber. More allegations of sexual harassment have surfaced at Fox News, this time against the network's top anchor, Bill O'Reilly. The New York Times has reported that in the weeks after Fox chair Roger Ailes was ousted over allegations of sexual harassment by more than 20 women, Fox News paid anchor Juliet Huddy a 6-figure sum to stay quiet about allegations Bill O'Reilly repeatedly sexually harassed her. A letter by Huddy's lawyer says O'Reilly called her all the time and sometimes sounded like he was masturbating. The letter also accuses O'Reilly of trying to kiss Huddy and once opening the door to his hotel room where he'd asked her to return a key in his boxer shorts. The letter says when Ruddy rejected O'Reilly's advances, he retaliated against her both on air and at the office. Fox News and Bill O'Reilly have rejected the allegations. In Afghanistan, at least 30 people have been killed in 2 bombings near the parliament building in Kabul. Another 70 people were wounded in the 2 explosions. The Taliban has claimed responsibility for both attacks. In Yemen, a U.S.-backed Saudi-led airstrike has killed 5 people near an elementary school in northern Yemen. At least 2 children were killed in the bombing. Despite concerns about being implicated in possible war crimes, the United States has continued to sell warplanes and munitions to the Saudi-led coalition throughout its bombing of Yemen, and U.S.-made munitions have been found at the scene of Saudi-led bombings where civilians have been killed. And Rita Lasar, co-founder of the September 11th Families for Peaceful Tomorrows, has died at the age of 85. Her brother Abe Zalmanowitz died on the 27th floor of the World Trade Center during the 9/11 attacks after he refused to leave until emergency workers came to help rescue his best friend, Ed, a paraplegic who worked next to him. Lazar went on to become a peace activist who traveled to Afghanistan to meet with the families of those killed in the U.S. war there. This is a clip of a remarkable conversation on Democracy Now! In 2002 between Rita Lasar and Masuda Sultan, an Afghan woman living in New York at the time of the 9/11 attacks, who soon learned that 19 members of her family had been killed by the U.S. attacks in Afghanistan. This is Rita Lasar.
President Bush mentioned him in the National Cathedral speech and cited him as being a hero. And I realized that my government was going to use my brother as justification for killing other people. And that had a tremendous impact on me. I didn't want that to happen, not in my brother's name. And so I wrote a letter to the Times, which they printed, asking our government to please be cautious and not do something they couldn't take back. And then I was asked to speak at a peace rally, and I did it. And just before I went on, I was told they had started bombing Afghanistan. And I realized something I had never realized before. I'd heard the term collateral damage all my life. It was always used about people far away from us. And I realized now what it meant, because my brother was collateral damage in a war that he didn't want, and Masuda's people didn't want.
That was Rita Lazar speaking on Democracy Now! In 2002. She died of cancer at her East Village apartment on Sunday. The United States war in Afghanistan continues. It's the longest war in U.S. history. Among those who survive her son Matthew Lazar, who wrote the history of Pacifica Radio. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
And